If your true seeing spell lasts for 4 or more hours, please consult your cleric, as a serious magical energy flow may be occurring, and he will definitely want to see that. Hello everyone, welcome back down here to the Gamer's Den with me, your host, Jordan, your master of lore and storyteller extraordinaire, where I am too realizing that I am also Knuff. And you know what? You are Knuff as well. But today we are continuing on with our guide to the first edition Pathfinder Shaman, today going over their 5th level spells, a choice selection of some of the more mechanically effective spells, things that are going to really be suited to a shaman that's focusing on more being a full spellcaster, reaching up into the heights of the 9th level spells. So it's not everything that is on your spell list that you have access to, and even the most mechanically poor spells or situational spells have their use and their value depending on what the circumstances are. So take this guide as just what it is, like I said, a guide, something you take with a pinch of salt and realize that this is just to help you learn what is mechanically effective, so that way you can balance out having some really good spells with some things that are maybe less mechanically effective and more story appropriate, very fluffy, the right feel for your character. That always trumps just pure mechanics, at least in my mind it does. And before we get into all of that, though, if you're new here to the channel, go on down there, hit the subscribe button, and become a regular member here at the Gamer's Den. Or if you've already gone on ahead and listed yourself on such an incredible roster of legendary heroes, then go on down to hit the like button and share the video far and wide. And now that we're done with that awkward transition, let's move a little more comfortably over to the actual spell selection that we have for you today. And today we are kicking things off with Baleful Polymorph. Target one creature within 25 feet plus 5 feet for every 2 caster levels you have, who must make a fortitude save or be turned into a small or smaller 1-hit dice creature, gaining a +4 if the new form would be fatal for them, so they get a +4 modifier to that fortitude save. And on a failed save, the creature loses their extraordinary, supernatural, and spell-like abilities. They also gain the intelligence, wisdom, and charisma scores of their new form. Shape changer subtypes can revert to their natural form as a standard action, so things like mimics, doppelgangers, anything that's really able to change its shape and has multiple forms is going to be able to get around this. But anybody that doesn't have that particular subtype is going to be royally screwed. This is just such a great spell to have, and it's going to be useful unto even the higher levels of play. Definitely worth having on at least one spell slot. Then we come to True Seeing. For 1 minute a level, target can see through normal and magic darkness, doors hidden by magic, sees through blur, displacement, invisibility, illusions, the true forms of polymorph creatures and transmuted things, out to 120 feet. Wow, that is such a huge boost for whoever gets this put on them. Illusory spells and things like blur and displacement, those do so much to raise the defensiveness and tankiness of a character, even if they might actually be a little bit fragile underneath that layer of protection. This is huge. This is a great spell to have. Another one that is going to basically be in use for you for the rest of your adventuring career. Then we also have Stone Skin. Touch target creature to grant damage reduction 10 adamantine, bypassed only by an adamantine weapon, blocking 10 points of damage per level, maxing out at 150 points of damage. This lasts 10 minutes per level or until it's discharged, so not only is that a lengthy time to have essentially an extra 150 hit points, but that's 15 attacks right there that are just cut down in size, if you'll pardon the pun. Lopping 10 points of damage off of every attack is great, and that's 10 points of damage per level, so I read that wrong for a second there. I apologize, I'm a little bit tired. I'll try to cut that out or edit it. Anyways, moving on before I embarrass myself further, that's 150 points of damage prevented. That is absolutely worth its weight in gold. My goodness. Then, now we have finally Spellblight Jinx. It's not the final spell, but this is one that is absolutely just gold. Wonderful spell. It is amazing. So, you touch target creature, and on a failed will save, if they're a spellcaster using a spell or spell-like ability, they begin to burn, forcing a DC 15 plus double the spell level cast or spell-like ability used. So if it's a 6th level spell, that's a plus 12 on top of that DC 15 there for a grand total of 27. On success, they use the spell or ability as normal. On a failure, the spell or ability is lost, and the target is staggered for a round. This is a permanent effect. This doesn't go away until they have a spell cast on them to remove it. This is the bane of any spellcasting class. Doesn't matter, it does matter if they're a full spellcaster. Causing them to lose something as powerful as a 7th, 8th, or 9th level spell is huge. But even those classes that go up to 6th level spells or top out at 4th level will find that their just such a huge significant portion of their class and what grants them their abilities is just gone. Just absolutely gone, and they're staggered when they fail. That's great to have, and the fact that this is permanent means that your opponent is going to have to dedicate resources to removing this if they manage to get away from you. And if they can't or don't, then they get away from you. If they encounter you later, they are just going to be so debilitated. This is a huge debuff to have. The only drawback to it is you have to touch the target, but once you touch them and lay this on, they fail their save, they are just going to be severely hindered. And now, lastly, for an interesting spell, we have Imbue Hex, whose rating I'm kind of flitting back and forth on. For now, I'd say it's good. Situational. After casting for 10 minutes, so it's not a combat spell, touch target creature and grant them the ability to use a single hex you know. Pretty good. The hex still works off of your level and ability scores. Even better. Only a creature with an intelligence and wisdom scores of at least 9 can receive this effect. Well, okay, that makes sense. They have to kind of understand what they're doing. I can get behind that. And you can't use the hex until the recipient uses it. Well, that's a major downer because you're really only going to apply a useful hex, and we're picking as many useful hexes as possible. And so passing that off to somebody else, and you can't use it until they've used it, that's a bit of a hindrance because you're going to want to use that yourself too, probably. Also, no major or grand hexes are allowed. That hurts. Granted, even the basic hexes are still great to have, and that's what you're going to be making use of. But really, overall, this hurts it quite a bit. And this is definitely something that is situational, not combat oriented. So this is going to be used for more subtle scenarios, social encounters, skill encounters, things like that. Or something where you have this and can have an NPC or somebody else drop it on a target without them really suspecting, and then just get the hex fired off to do whatever it is you're needing to do. Or if you're using it in a useful capacity, a buffing capacity, if you have a hex that does that, then then that's a little bit easier to apply. But still, this is something that's going to be used for encounters requiring finesse and subterfuge, and so they're going to involve a fair bit of planning, which is fine because it takes 10 minutes to cast. But it's something that you're probably not going to be using every day unless you have a campaign that is focused mainly on all the cloak and dagger spy work kind of stuff. In which case, go to town. You get great mileage out of this, especially since if you're depending on the story you're weaving, maybe you're one of these characters that is just operating from the shadows, using as many people as possible as puppets, and because these people are all a delivery mechanism and nobody ever actually sees you throw out a hex, then maybe you can start doing a lot of interesting things where you're deceiving people, keeping them off your trail or throwing them off of it, and then just striking right when they're most vulnerable, unleashing everything you have to just make their what remains of their lives a total nightmare. But what do you think? Go on down to the comments below and let me know your thoughts. Did you like today's video? Did you dislike it? Let me know your thoughts in the comments down below, and we will engage in discussion. Like I said, this is not all the spells available to you, but it's a pretty interesting selection, and most of these are just going to be classic staples for the shaman, for any spellcasting class that has access to them. And remember, if you're new here to the channel, go on down there, hit the subscribe button, and become a regular member here at the Gamers Den. With all that said, I've been your host, Jordan, your Master of Lore, Storyteller Extraordinaire, and also Knuff. Thank you all so very much for your time. You all have yourselves a good night.